Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday, May 6, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, the Chinese and Iranian foreign ministers have met in Beijing as Middle East tensions remain high. The WHO says human-to-human transmission of the hantavirus cannot be ruled out as it investigates cases on a cruise ship. And Chinese authorities have reported over 1.5 billion domestic trips over the 5-day Labor Day holiday. In business, consumer spending surged over the recent 5-day holiday. In sports, Arsenal returns to the Champions League final. In culture and entertainment, China's holiday box office has eclipsed last year's total by a slim margin. Now checking the day's top stories. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi have met in Beijing as tensions in the Middle East remain high. Araghchi said facts have proven that political crises cannot be resolved through military means. He said Iran will safeguard its national sovereignty and dignity while building consensus through peaceful negotiations and seek a lasting solution. Araghchi called for swift action to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He said Iran appreciates China's proposals on maintaining and promoting regional peace and stability. Wang Yi said the situation has reached a critical juncture. He said China believes that a ceasefire is urgently needed, resuming conflict is inadvisable, and persisting with negotiations is especially important. China supports Iran in safeguarding its national sovereignty, security, and appreciates Iran's willingness to seek a political solution. The Chinese diplomat said the international community shares a common concern over the restoration of normal and safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. He expressed China's hope that the parties concerned will respond promptly to the strong calls of the international community. And for more on the Chinese and Iranian foreign ministers meeting, Tian Yu spoke with Wang Jin, director for the Center for Strategic Studies at Northwest University in China.
So, Professor, how do you see the timing of this meeting?
I think the timing is very crucial because the tension is still rising. And actually, during the past days, we witnessed very clearly that the United States is trying to violate the management measures taken by Iran over the Hormuz Strait by military force. Meanwhile, we witnessed that Iran launched attacks against the targets inside the Emirates. And both of these things could lead to the possible escalation and restarting of war in the region. That's why I think the meeting between China Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Iranian representative will help for the international community to understand the true attitudes and the possibilities of possible peace in this region, and will insert new confidence about the future of prolonging peace in this region.
Right. And what role will China's pursuit of peace in the Middle East play in easing the U.S.-Iran conflict?
I think China's role is very crucial. China will continue to play a very important, active, constructive role in the process of peace. We cannot deny the fact that China is not the war starter, and China is not the player who enjoys the vital voice over the conflicting sides, United States and Iran. But of course, China can do something. On the one hand, China can help bridge kind of the communication channel between the United States and Iran, who actually has no reliable communication mechanism with each other. On the other hand, China, together with the regional countries, shared a lot of common interests over the restarting of the Hormuz Straits, over the reliable energy production and supply chain, and also over the prospect of economic developments. So that's why I think China's role would be respected both by the United States and Iran, and also China will together, of course, with the regional countries, Pakistan and Egypt and other regional countries, for the possibilities of prolonging peace in this region, and for the possibilities of starting a much more reliable mechanism for the prolonging of peace.
That was Wang Jin on China's efforts in restoring peace in the Middle East. Iranian media say the country has launched a new system to control traffic through the Strait of Hormuz that requires ships to obtain permission via email from Iranian authorities. Tehran's calling the initiative a sovereign governance system. Iran's parliament is also considering legislation that would formalize restrictions on vessels tied to Israel and the United States, and to introduce a toll system for other ships deemed non-hostile. Tehran said its control over the Strait of Hormuz has intensified, and any U.S. claims to the contrary are untrue. Sapir Saremi reports.
Speaker of the Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, as you know him, he's very important these days in Iran's politics. As he led the negotiations in Pakistan, he made these remarks that a new equation in the Strait of Hormuz is taking place. And he also added the continuation of the current situation is not tolerable for the U.S. And he went on to say that Iran has not even begun its action. As you see, his remarks carry a very, very firm and assertive tone. On the other side, Fars news agency, citing local sources, said that the claims of U.S. regarding blowing up IRGC boats are not true, and U.S. has blown up civilian boats, 2 boats, and killed also 5 passengers in those boats. Things are happening at an unprecedented pace, and tensions are rising in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. And both, the Iranian officials, the president, the foreign minister, and also military leaders are saying that Iran is ready for any kind of scenario in coming days.
That was Sapir Saremi in Tehran. U.S. President Donald Trump says the operation aimed at guiding ships out of the Strait of Hormuz will be paused to see whether Washington and Tehran can reach a deal. He said the decision hinges on progress toward a complete and final agreement. The announcement came shortly after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the military campaign against Iran is over, as Washington shifts focus to Project Freedom in efforts to reopen the crucial global energy waterway. Iranian and U.S. claims contradict each other on who controls the strait. Walter Morris has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran isn't over. And as the standoff intensifies over the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. allies in the region report more drone and missile attacks. During a briefing Tuesday, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said they expected Iran to respond to the U.S. campaign to escort stranded tankers through the strait. The Pentagon calls the initiative Operation Freedom. Administration officials say the Navy destroyed 7 Iranian small boats Monday after Iran launched multiple drones, cruise missiles, and boats at ships under U.S. military protection. U.S. Central Command also denied Iranian media reports that an American ship had been struck. Monday, several merchant ships in the Gulf also reported fires and explosions. And an oil facility in the United Arab Emirates was targeted in a drone strike. Tuesday, the UAE reported more Iranian missile and drone attacks. The UAE Foreign Ministry says the attacks are a serious escalation and a direct threat to the country's security. Senior Pentagon officials say Iran has attacked U.S. forces 10 times and fired at commercial ships 9 times since the ceasefire was announced April 7. However, the Trump administration says those attacks don't violate the ceasefire.
We expected there would be some churn at the beginning, which happened. And we said we would defend aggressively, and we absolutely have. Iran knows that. And ultimately, the president's going to make a decision whether anything were to escalate into a violation of a ceasefire. But certainly we would urge Iran to be prudent in the actions that they take to keep that underneath this threshold. This is about the straits. This is about freedom of navigation. This is about international waterways.
Tuesday, Trump addressed the escalating tensions in the strait during an event in the Oval Office. He told reporters that Iran should, quote, do the smart thing and make a deal.
We have a situation where we have total control. As you know, the blockade's been amazing. It's like a piece of steel. Nobody's going to challenge the blockade. And I think it's working out very well. We're going to see. I can say this, Iran wants to make a deal. What I don't like about Iran is they'll talk to me with such great respect, and then they'll go on television, they'll say, we did not speak to the president. We did not, I just spoke to, we did not speak to the president. So they play games, but let me just tell you, they want to make a deal. And who wouldn't? When your military is totally gone, we could do anything we want to them. Who wouldn't?
Trump wouldn't share details about what he considers a violation of the ceasefire agreement. The administration says Operation Freedom will be temporary.
That was Walter Morris reporting from Washington. The effects of the conflict in the Middle East are spreading far beyond the region. In Brazil, coffee growers are feeling the pressure as rising diesel and fertilizer prices begin to bite. The farm machinery market is also slowing. Lei Shengping reports.
The impact of the Middle East conflict is already visible in Sao Paulo state. For now, many farmers are holding back on large-scale fertilizer purchases. Luis Antonio runs a coffee plantation of more than 300 hectares. His family has been growing coffee for a century. He says the current situation is unlike anything they have seen before. As the harvest approaches, diesel costs for machinery could rise by around 15%. But he is even more concerned about next season.
Mas a safra que vai entrar depois que a gente terminar a colheita.
When this harvest ends, we will begin preparing for the next one. That's when the real impact will become clear. Fertilizer, pesticides, and diesel are all more expensive. Our production costs are already rising. Fertilizer prices are up nearly 50%. Some have even doubled. If this continues, the impact will be even greater. My costs next season could rise by half, so I'm closely watching the situation in the Middle East. It will help me decide how much to invest.
As farmers spend more on essential inputs, they have less to invest in equipment and technology. Brazil held its International Agricultural Machinery Fair last week. Here, too, the impact is evident. Moises Pedres is promoting agricultural drones, but he says interest from farmers is weaker this year. He explains that the surging spending on fuel and farm chemicals has reduced farmers' purchasing power. Compared with fertilizers and pesticides, drones are no longer a priority.
This
fair is usually a peak season for drone sales. But this year, the market is clearly weaker. The root cause is reduced purchasing power, a direct chain reaction from the war. What happens next in the Strait of Hormuz is crucial. If tensions remain high, farmers will remain under financial pressure. They won't invest in drones or other equipment. And it's not just drones, crop protection equipment, tractors, agricultural aircraft, all are affected. The industry is already feeling the impact.
Analysts say ongoing tensions in the Middle East are affecting global agriculture through higher energy prices, disrupted shipping routes, and strained supply chains for farm inputs. In Brazil, the effects are already visible, moving from rising costs to real changes in planting and investment decisions. For the Beijing Hour, this is Lei Shengping in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And coming up, the WHO is investigating the hantavirus outbreak on a Dutch cruise ship off the coast of Africa.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
13 past the hour. The World Health Organization says human-to-human transmission on board cannot be ruled out for the hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. It said victims may have been infected before joining the trip. The vessel remained quarantined off the coast of Cape Verde with 147 people on board. At least 7 individuals aboard the ship have reported symptoms, and 3 deaths are linked to the virus. Some of them passed through South Africa, with 1 dying in transit through Johannesburg. Julie Shire reports from Cape Town.
South African health authorities are on high alert. The 2 hantavirus cases are tied to the MV Hondius sailing from Argentina to the Canary Islands. 1 traveler died while in transit through OR Tambo International Airport, while another, a British citizen, was airlifted to a Johannesburg hospital for treatment.
He had arrived in quite a critical condition. The particular nature of this virus is that it does lead to leaky capillaries, sort of the blood flow in the lungs can be distributed, and you end up with leaky lungs, so to say, and this person has needed ventilation for respiratory collapse.
Hantavirus, though rare, is a potentially severe infection typically spread through contact with infected rodents.
It's not endemic in South Africa at all. That's why it's causing a bit of a hype. So typically we get it from animal excrement, and that is in the environment, enclosed areas, rodent infestations, etc. And that's how humans can contract it. Not generally human to human at all.
South Africa is now working closely with the World Health Organization to track down travelers, health workers, and others who may have been exposed.
It is something that we are looking at very seriously. That's why we are doing contact tracing. The World Organization must help us, because South Africa cannot have the capacity to do that alone when we are dealing with so many nations.
5 years after COVID-19 reshaped global health systems, incidents like this are once again exposing how quickly infectious diseases can move through international travel routes. Officials insist the public risk remains low, but the response now underway stretches far beyond South Africa's borders.
That was Julie Shire reporting. A passenger says the atmosphere on board the ship is relatively good. Elaine Gosar said passengers are worried about sick fellow travelers who are still not allowed to leave the ship. Gosar said that there was initial shock after the deaths, but the crew briefs passengers regularly. She said passengers are not in quarantine, but follow WHO guidelines and practice social distancing.
Nee, wij zitten niet in quarantaine.
No, we're not in quarantine. We follow the WHO rules, so we do keep our distance from each other. The face masks, people who feel comfortable wearing a face mask wear a face mask, especially indoors. And for the rest, it is an individual matter how much distance you want to keep. There are people who absolutely do not want to come into contact with other people indoors. That is fine. We respect that.
The ship's operator says it's activated its highest level response plan, including isolation and hygiene measures. The UK is facing a week of political turmoil. Local and regional elections on Thursday could be a huge challenge for the ruling Labour Party. In Wales, where power has been decentralised from Westminster for 3 decades, other parties could form the next government for the first time. And that could have major political implications for the Prime Minister. Yolo Abdaffit explains.
It's been staunchly pro-Labour for over a century, but voters in Wales are changing their minds. If voting in these parliamentary elections follow opinion polls, it could be a radical change.
And it is already a profoundly different election for Wales and the UK. A system of proportional representation is being introduced, where people will vote for a list of candidates from each of the parties. There'll be 6 members here from 16 new constituencies. And there's an increase in the number of people that will be debating and agreeing matters, up from 60 members to 96.
In this election, it's very unlikely that Labour will form the government, and that's what makes it such a seismic and potentially historic election, because in all of democratic times, we've had Labour governments. Labour hasn't lost an election in Wales for 104 years.
Industry like coal and steel production and the guarantee of jobs that went with them disappeared decades ago from South Wales valleys. These traditional socialist areas are now enticed by different political promises, and there's anger towards successive Labour governments in Wales and the rest of the UK for failing to improve their lives.
My family were Labour for years. We felt a full allegiance. It was a religion to vote Labour. That is broken after betrayal. So this is just people expressing a democratic right and going to a party that reflects them more. And it could be us. Some people say it's the Greens out there. Some people are saying it's Plaid Cymru.
Last year, Reform UK narrowly lost a by-election to Plaid Cymru, a party campaigning for an independent Wales in the future. Meanwhile, Reform welcomed defections from former Labour and Conservative politicians to their party. The Green Party are also hopeful of winning seats.
I think society is changing. I think we've been kind of sold this idea of kind of extreme individualism, certainly since the days of Thatcher, and that hasn't worked for so many people in our society.
Opinion polls suggest it's a 2-horse race between the left of centre Plaid Cymru and the right-wing Reform UK party. That could lead to political arguments and calls for more powers to be devolved from London to Wales.
That was Yolo Abdaffit reporting from Cardiff. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has renewed his condemnation of anti-Semitism in the country, following a recent stabbing attack on 2 Jewish men in Golders Green, which he described as utterly appalling.
Last October at Heaton Park, a deadly terrorist attack shocked the nation. Similarly, last week's terrorist attack in Golders Green was utterly appalling, but they were not isolated incidents. It's part of a pattern of rising anti-Semitism that has left our Jewish communities feeling frightened, angry, and asking whether this country, their home, is safe for them.
He announced an extra £25 million in funding to boost police patrols and security at synagogues, schools, and community centres. Starmer noted that anti-Semitism comes from many sources: Islamists, the far left, and the far right. Authorities have charged a 45-year-old man with attempted murder over last week's attack, which police have called terrorism. The incident followed recent synagogue arsons in London. The UK's most senior police officer warned that British Jews face their greatest ever threat, adding that social media has made anti-Semitism more mainstream than before. Now, Romania's pro-European coalition has collapsed after lawmakers voted in favor of a no-confidence motion against Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan. 281 lawmakers backed the motion with only 4 against. Bolojan's own party did not vote. He called the motion cynical and artificial, vowing to keep fighting for reforms. Coming up, China says over 1.5 billion domestic trips have been taken over the recent Labor Day holiday.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
At 22 past the hour, China's transport authorities say there were over 1.5 billion domestic trips during the Labor Day holiday period, rising nearly 3.5% and marking a new record. The railway system added more than 2,000 trains to meet demand. A number of passenger terminals stayed open all night to provide services. The Labor Day holiday is one of 4 national holidays where small passenger vehicles enjoy nationwide road toll waivers. Meanwhile, border inspection authorities nationwide handled more than 11.2 million inbound and outbound trips by Chinese and foreign travelers, marking a 3.5% rise. Foreign entries and exits exceeded 1.2 million. That was an increase of 12.5%. Among foreign arrivals, 436,000 entered visa-free, and that was up 14.7%. Expanded visa-free policies and easier entry procedures for China have brought more travelers, with many looking for a different experience. Yiming has more.
From scenic landmarks to exciting urban hubs, a new wave of international visitors has added global tempo to the holiday.
I love Shenzhen. It's very amazing sightseeing, and I enjoy good time. I love China.
This experience is so beautiful. You can see the whole city. It's not common to see an environment like this.
In Xi'an, one of China's most iconic historic capitals, foreign visitors walk across the 14-kilometer perimeter of the centuries-old city wall, immersing themselves in a living past that now feels more accessible than ever. Viral online trends also translated into footprints on the ground.
I'm interested in Chinese culture and to learn more about the history of the country and the city.
We watch a lot of video in TikTok, very interesting videos about China. We like everything very much.
Expanded visa-free access to 75 countries since July 2025 and streamlined entry procedures are lowering the threshold for travel, making spontaneous trips to China increasingly feasible.
I'm very happy to be able to enter visa-free. Now with the visa-free policy, it's very convenient. There's no need to apply for a visa in advance. Everything here is great. The food is delicious, and the people here are very hospitable.
For many, this convenience is redefining the purpose of travel, shifting from simple sightseeing to a blend of culture, consumption, and connection. From international trade fairs like the Canton Fair in Guangzhou to the Beijing Auto Show, China is drawing visitors from overseas who are as interested in innovation and opportunity as they are in scenery and culture.
I'm from Australia. From Abu Dhabi.
I'm from Ireland originally. I'm living in the Middle East.
Overseas buyers are closely watching how Chinese manufacturing continues to move up the value chain, led by its innovations and wider product range across major sectors.
China every year improve and new technology, the technology tools, and also the focused more different product and developing more. This is, for me, this is good.
From Travel China to Shop China, the shift reflects more than just changing itineraries. It signals a country that is increasingly open, interconnected, and confident on the global stage.
That was Yiming reporting. Consumer spending in retail, hospitality, and cinema was robust over the holiday. The Commerce Ministry monitored 78 commercial districts and reported a 5% rise in foot traffic and sales compared to last year. Spending in hotels benefited from a 7.6% rise in the number of travelers crossing provincial borders. Beyond the holiday data are novel, interactive, and high-tech travel experiences rolled out by thousands of scenic spots across the country, from low-altitude sightseeing to immersive cultural programs and live events. As part of China's efforts to attract more overseas travelers, Shanghai's rolled out a program that turns a single event pass into a ticket to city-wide experiences and discounts. Zheng Siren has details.
The national box office gave a blockbuster start for this economic model. Now, partnerships like the Film Plus Coffee package at the Shanghai International Coffee Culture Festival are creating new value for consumers.
Every time there's something new. This is our first time to see the Bond from this area. We are China addicts, China fans.
The model extends beyond the cinema, connecting with Shanghai's premier sporting events.
A ticket to the 2026 Shanghai Global Champions Tour is more than just entry. It helps you capture memory with special savings, both on-site and nearby.
The event is celebrating its landmark 12th year. By blending sports, travel, and retail, we offer Ticket Plus bundles and travel packages.
I come from Italy and I'm here in Shanghai today. I'm a student at the University of Tongji. This is my first time ever coming here, watching the horse compete. They're all so beautiful.
We came from Russia. It's our first time here. Of course, I support all the women.
It's wonderful and amazing experience in my life.
Compared with last year, there are much more people. Shanghai, very nice city. Wonderful show.
The landscape is changing fast from packed stands to packed stables. China is now a leading force in Asian equestrianism. A new generation of riders is stepping up, creating a vibrant and thriving culture for the sport.
Here at the Shanghai International Flower Show in Sinan Mansions, the beauty isn't just in the blooms. Admission is free, and it opens the door to a wide range of local discounts.
In the iconic store of Sinan Books, readers are invited to take the beauty of the season from the paddle to the page.
At Sinan Books, we've partnered with Shanghai Translation Publishing House for a 40% discount on English books. Our Eternal Summer merchandise has been a huge hit, driving a major boost in sales.
The city's live performance venues are also rolling out redemption benefits with local businesses. Many show tickets now encourage audiences to keep exploring the city long after the final encore. A ticket to a major dance production like Carmen can even unlock online discounts for pet care services.
That was Zheng Siren on Shanghai offering another travel or a smoother travel experience. A UN report says displacement is at a record high. It's estimated over 80 million internally displaced persons were out there by the end of 2024. Its 2026 World Migration Report also finds that while migrant crossing attempts have fallen on some routes, the number of those missing or found dead has doubled. The report notes that only 3.7% of the world's population are international migrants, a stable proportion. Spokesperson says when migration is well managed, it supports jobs, economic growth, and social cohesion. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing is cloudy overnight. It's down to 14 degrees. Thursday is sunny and 24. Shanghai will be cloudy and 17, giving way to a light rainfall and 28 degrees. Chongqing will see some rainfall overnight, then becomes overcast and 24. Nanchang's overcast and 21, giving way to heavy rain and 24 degrees. Lhasa will have showers overnight. It's down to +5, a light rainfall and 17 tomorrow. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's at 19 this evening, sunny and 32 degrees for Thursday. Now, Vientiane will see a light rainfall becoming moderate tomorrow with a low of 26, a high of 36. Phnom Penh will see a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 33. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, the Chinese and Iranian foreign ministers have met in Beijing as Middle East tensions remain high. The WHO says human-to-human transmission of the hantavirus cannot be ruled out as it investigates cases on a cruise ship. And Chinese authorities have reported over 1.5 billion domestic trips over the 5-day Labor Day holiday. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday. Still to come. In business, consumer spending surged over the recent 5-day holiday. In sports, Arsenal returns to the Champions League final. In culture and entertainment, China's holiday box office has eclipsed last year's total by a slim margin. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account at CGTN Radio. But now with a check of the day's headlines, here's Tianyu.
Thank you, Shane. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi says the current situation in the Middle East is at a critical juncture, but a cessation of hostilities is imperative. He made the remark when holding talks with his Iranian counterpart in Beijing. Abbas Araghchi said Iran will firmly safeguard national sovereignty while continuously building consensus through peaceful negotiations and seeking a permanent solution. He said the opening of the Strait of Hormuz should be addressed properly and as soon as possible. He said Iran expects China to continue its active role in promoting peace and ending hostilities. Wang Yi said China supports Iran in safeguarding its national sovereignty and security and appreciates Iran's willingness to seek a political solution through diplomatic means. Iran's main military command said the armed forces did not carry out missile or drone attacks against the United Arab Emirates over the past few days. A spokesman for the Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters rejected a report by the UAE that said Iran struck civilian targets and urged officials not to hurl unjustified accusations. The spokesman warned of a crushing response if any action is taken from the UAE soil against Iranian islands and coasts. The United States has declared a pause in its operations to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and said its military strikes on Iran are over. President Donald Trump said the temporary halt to Project Freedom is intended to see if an agreement with Iran can be reached. The blockade of the strait will remain in force. On the same day, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. military campaign on Iran, dubbed Epic Fury, is over. Rubio claims the objectives of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran were achieved, even though the U.S. has yet to secure Tehran's enriched uranium. The World Health Organization is investigating the possible human-to-human transmission of hantavirus aboard a polar cruise ship off Cape Verde. 3 passengers have died on the Dutch ship MV Hondius, which has nearly 150 people on board. Hantavirus is usually spread by rodents, but the WHO says limited spread among close contacts has occurred within one strain, the Andes virus. WHO's Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove says the agency is working under the assumption that this is the Andes virus.
Our working assumption is that it is the Andes virus. It could not be, but we're assuming that it is until determined otherwise, because we do know that in the past there has been some limited human-to-human transmission with this virus. The Point being, regardless of which virus it actually is, we do know that some of the cases have had very close contact with each other, and certainly human-to-human transmission can't be ruled out. So as a precaution, this is what we are assuming so that we could take the necessary further precautions to limit onward spread.
A British man evacuated to South Africa has tested positive and is in critical condition. Cape Verde is taking action and has sent medical teams. Its health director says they will airlift 3 stable patients from the virus-hit cruise ship. Spain has agreed to receive the vessel in the Canary Islands, citing international law and humanitarianism. But the leader of the island's regional government rejected the move, calling for an urgent meeting with Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. The ship's operator has confirmed that 2 sick crew will be evacuated to the Netherlands, prioritizing medical care. A South Korean judge involved in the appeal by former First Lady Kim Kyung-hee has been found dead in Seoul. According to Yonhap news agency, Judge Shim Jong-oh of the Seoul High Court was found near the court building early Wednesday morning. Police are investigating the cause of death. The judge had presided over the appeal case involving Kim, wife of former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. Kim was sentenced last month to 4 years in prison on charges including stock manipulation and graft.
All right, thank you very much. That's Tianyu with headlines. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, consumer spending surged over the recent 5-day holiday.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 past the hour. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Wednesday. The Shanghai Composite was up nearly 1.2%. The Shenzhen component gained more than 2.3%. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index rose over 1.2%. Japan's Nikkei was nearly 0.4% higher. Consumer sales revenue rose 14.3% nationwide during the May Day holiday. The State Taxation Administration says the results based on value-added tax invoice data. Sales revenues from travel and entertainment services gained 21.2%, with many consumers showing a strong preference for cultural and sporting activities. Revenues from household services such as laundry, pets, and auto repair increased 14.2%. Consumer spending on dining and accommodation also grew rapidly thanks to efforts like dining events with local specialties and homestay services. Sales revenue from supermarkets and other retailers rose 15.6%, with many consumers showing robust demand for cosmetics, jewelry, arts, and crafts. Hong Kong has posted its strongest quarterly economic growth in 5 years, rising 5.9%. Strong exports and private consumer spending drove that momentum, despite ongoing tensions in the Middle East. Laura Westbrook reports from the city.
According to advance estimates released by authorities, the economy expanded by 5.9% in the first 3 months of the year, compared with the same period last year, the strongest quarterly growth in almost 5 years. Private consumption expenditure rose 5% year-on-year in the first quarter. Total exports of goods jumped 23.8% from January to March, compared with a year earlier, accelerating from 15.4% growth in the fourth quarter of 2025. A government spokesperson said that the outlook remains positive, supported by robust global demand for artificial intelligence-related electronics, a rise in visitor arrivals, and increased cross-border financial activity. However, he did caution that persistent tensions in the Middle East continue to pose risks to the economic outlook. Earlier, Financial Secretary Paul Chan wrote in a blog post that despite a complex and rapidly evolving external environment, Hong Kong's economy is showing signs of improvement, underpinned by private consumption, exports, and fixed investment. He says that visitor arrivals for the first 3 months of the year rose by around 17% to more than 14.3 million year-on-year. He adds that tourist arrivals could exceed 53 million visitors this year, and that is expected to push up tourism-related spending. The city has seen an influx of tourists from the Chinese mainland during the 5-day Labor Day holiday period. Now, Hong Kong's exports have also grown at their fastest pace in more than 5 years, driven by strong demand for AI-related electronic products. The finance chief says Hong Kong should focus on maintaining stability by accelerating the adoption of artificial intelligence and strengthening talent development. Analysts note that retail spending continues to be affected by the trend of Hong Kong residents traveling north to spend in the Chinese mainland, while uncertainties linked to the Iran conflict persist, including broader global inflationary pressures.
That was Laura Westbrook reporting. Hong Kong's hosting a major Asia-Pacific astronomy summit this week. It brings together top scientists, Nobel laureates, and space engineers from around the world. Wan Hongjie interviewed one of the conference's hosts to find out how this advances the city's space ambitions.
For the first time, Hong Kong has convened the Asia-Pacific Regional Meeting of the International Astronomical Union. The week-long conference at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre has drawn over 500 scientists and space specialists from China, the US, Russia, Japan and beyond, including Nobel and Shaw Prize laureates. The agenda spans sustainable space development, debris mitigation and light pollution, underscoring a drive for coordinated policies and collaborative frameworks across the Asia-Pacific space sector.
So this has brought over people like Peter Martinez, who's head of the Secure World Foundation based in the United States. It's brought over Professor Mike Manelli, who is ex-Lord Mayor of London, is very big in insurance. We're looking at surety bonds for the new space economy.
How do you assess the significance of this event? How do you evaluate Hong Kong's current role in China's space development?
Now, in terms of the significance, I think, to show that Hong Kong as a city can run a mega science event and not just run the rugby sevens or not just run a canto pop concert based in Hong Kong under one country, two systems, gives it some very strong and unique advantages. We have a common law jurisprudence. We have incredibly strong and well-regarded international regulatory frameworks. We're an IPO leader in the world at the moment. Why not? Can Hong Kong be a big new space center and also a global hub for space sustainability, on which all of this depends? We could do it. We just need to, grab the low-hanging fruit as a city, a special administrative region, and make it happen.
Hong Kong is carving a niche in China's deep space exploration, and this year marks a pivotal juncture. Earlier on China's Space Day, officials unveiled the collaborative payloads for 1013 Mars sample return mission, with Hong Kong turning out 3 of the 5 payloads. Meanwhile, the city's first astronaut has already been named to China's astronaut training echelon and is anticipated to fly later this year. And lunar missions unlock new opportunities.
We're participating in the Chang'e 7 mission to the moon. We've developed a small wide-field camera telescope that's going on the lunar lander, going to land on the edge of the Shackleton crater in the lunar South Pole region.
Chief Executive of Hong Kong SAR John Lee has emphasized Hong Kong's ambition to cultivate aerospace technology and nurture the space economy. By leveraging its legal framework, financial infrastructure and international connections, Hong Kong is anticipated to act as a superconnector in China's national space initiatives, spearheading in the space economy.
That was Wan Hongjie reporting. China's service sector accelerated once again last month, with the composite PMI hitting its second highest point in nearly 2 years. The rating dog China Services Business Activity Index rose to 52.6 in April, marking 40 consecutive months of growth in new orders. The figure signals that the domestic economy recovery is still gaining traction. Analysts say stable domestic demand and strong business confidence are driving the growth of the services industry. Meantime, the composite output index covering manufacturing and services climbed to 53.1, the second fastest growth rate since May of 2024. The European Union has urged the United States to quickly restore the tariff levels agreed on in last year's trade deal. The European Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security met his U.S. counterpart in Paris on Tuesday. Their meeting follows U.S. President Trump's threat to increase tariffs on EU cars and trucks to 25%, claiming the EU has not complied with their 2025 trade agreement. The European Commission says the bloc is in the final stages of implementing it and hopes to have the main terms in place by July. Sarah Coates has more on the trade deal.
This really goes back to an EU-US deal that was struck last summer in Scotland, which would have largely seen tariffs on EU imports into the United States, mainly cars and trucks, capped at 15%, which was at a much lower rate than what the US President Donald Trump was threatening. Now, in return, the EU would have then lowered tariffs or even dropped them on some American industrial items, as well as really the broader package, seeing the EU having to purchase American electricity and also invest in the US economy. Now, because the EU had to really push parts of this through the European Parliament and then get the agreement of these 27 member states, it did see a bit of a hold-up in actually getting this through, getting it implemented. Now, Washington then said Brussels has been dragging its feet. It hasn't been keeping up with its part of the deal. Brussels then came back and said, yes, we have. It's just been taking a little bit longer because we need to get all these member states to agree, etc. And then it was just last week that we heard this announcement from President Trump saying that this 25% tariff would be imposed on EU vehicles, this is cars and trucks, as early as possibly this week. The French President Emmanuel Macron, he's in Armenia. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We support free and fair trade and adherence to World Trade Organization rules. From the outset, we have adapted. Agreements have been signed and they must be respected. If they were called into question, everything would be reopened. And if any country were threatened with tariffs, the European Union has equipped itself with instruments which must then be activated because that is their purpose. So yes, everything is on the table.
So obviously we heard there all options are on the table. We know that these EU representatives are meeting at the European Parliament, really trying to get this through. Time is of the essence, I should say, but we are certainly following this because if these 25% tariffs are imposed on these EU vehicles, it would really cause a very big hit.
That was Sarah Coates reporting. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in sports, Arsenal returns to the Champions League final.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past now, and with sports, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. We begin with football. Arsenal is through to the Champions League final for the first time in 2 decades after Bukayo Saka fired them to a hard-fought 1-0 win over Atletico Madrid. With the first leg ending 1-1 in Madrid, the Gunners held their nerve after Saka's decisive strike to seal a 2-1 aggregate victory. Head coach Mikel Arteta held the momentum as Arsenal returns to the showpiece for the first time since their 2006 loss to Barcelona.
We made history again together, and I cannot be happier, prouder for everybody that is involved in this football club. The manner that we got received outside the stadium already was special and unique. The atmosphere that our supporters created, the energy, the way they lifted every ball with us, it made it special and unique. I never felt that in the stadium.
Arsenal is also edging closer to domestic glory. 3 wins from their remaining Premier League games against West Ham, Burnley and Crystal Palace would secure their first league title since 2004. And once the title race with Manchester City is settled, Arteta's men will head to Budapest on May 30th, where either Paris Saint-Germain or Bayern Munich awaits one final step into their pursuit of a first-ever Champions League crown. In the Chinese Super League, Shandong Taishan ended a 3-year drought against Shanghai Shenhua in emphatic fashion, cruising to a 4-1 home victory in Jinan. Chris Zhang stole the spotlight with a sensational display, setting up the opener before firing a clinical hat-trick to cap a 4-goal masterclass. The win lifts Shandong Taishan up to 5th in the league standings. Indonesia edged China 1-0 in their Group B clash at the U17 Asian Cup in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Kinu Sanjaya struck a late winner in the 87th minute, sealing all 3 points for Indonesia despite China dominating possession for much of the match. China will face Japan in its next group match on Saturday after Japan defeated Qatar 3-1 in the same group. China powered into the men's round of 16 at the World Team Table Tennis Championships with a dominant 3-0 sweep of Australia. Liang Jingkun set a turn early, storming back from 9-6 down in the opening game against Nicholas Loom with 5 straight points before riding that momentum to secure the first win. Wang Chuqing then tightened China's grip with a commanding performance over Aditya Sarin. Lin Shidong wrapped it up in style, defeating Fin Lu in straight sets to complete the clean sweep. China will next face Romania, which edged Poland 3-2 on Monday for a place in the quarterfinals. Meantime, Luxembourg survived the Classic in women's team round of 32, edging Brazil 3-2 in a match that went down to the wire. Brazil struck first as Bruna Takahashi beat Sarah Denute, but Luxembourg hit back when 62-year-old Nisha Lian outlasted Gilia Takahashi in a 5-game battle to level the tie. Anisa Sadikovic then held her nerve in another decider against Laura Watanabe to put Luxembourg ahead, before Bruna Takahashi responded again, edging Nisha Lian to make it 2-2. In the decisive match, Denute stayed composed under pressure, sweeping Gilia Takahashi in straight games to seal Luxembourg's dramatic passage into the round of 16. China's men's ice hockey team edged Estonia 4-3, clinching the silver medal at International Ice Hockey Federation Division 1 Group B in Shenzhen. It marks their best finish in 32 years. Forward Hou Yuyang described the result as proof of their hard work.
I don't think we jumped into form only from this game. The contests we went through at the tournament made it happen. China also prepared early and made comprehensive plans for the tournament. The result is actually proof of what we had done.
The tournament finished on May the 5th. In tennis, Chen Qingwen battled back from a set down to defeat Anna Bonda in the first round of the WTA Italian Open. Chen was broken early before a double fault in the opening set, allowing Bonda to seize control and take it 6-3. Chen responded in style, raising her first serve percentage and surging to a 4-love lead in the second set before closing it out 6-3 to level the match. In the decider, she showed resilience under pressure, fighting back from a 3-love down, breaking in the 5th game and eventually converting her 4th match point to complete a hard-fought comeback victory. And finally, China's Jiang Yiting clinched the silver in the women's skis at the World Cup in Almaty, Kazakhstan, hitting 30 targets in the final.
I'm really happy to finish second. My training form hasn't been ideal recently, so this result is already a big improvement for me. The fight for gold was really intense, and with the crowd cheering, my heart was racing the whole time.
It was her first World Cup appearance of the year. In qualification, she was one of 5 shooters tied on 119 points, advancing to the final in 4th place under the expanded 8-athlete format. In the final, she stayed in contention through the elimination rounds, but ultimately fell short of Kazakhstan's Sam Arambe, who claimed the gold with 33 hits to equal the world record.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, China's holiday box office has eclipsed last year's total by a slim margin.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
53 past now. Turning to culture and entertainment. China's box office during the 5-day May-Day holiday reached 758 million yuan, roughly $110 million US dollars. The figure slightly surpassed last year's 747 million yuan, while total admissions climbed to over 20.8 million, and that's up from 18.9 million a year earlier. A crime thriller, Vanishing Point, topped the chart with 264 million yuan, accounting for more than a third of total revenue. The Maoyan and Beacon platforms now project the film will cross 500 million yuan in total earnings. In second place, Hong Kong set action prequel Cold War 1994 grossed over 200 million yuan. A standout success came from low-budget regional film Dear You, with over 80% of its revenue coming from Guangdong province. It also earned a strong 9.0 rating on Douban, a major review platform in China. Indonesia and China are forging new paths in cultural collaboration, spanning museums, stage performances, digital platforms, media, and the arts. For more, Iona Gomoy spoke with Fadli Zon, Indonesia's Minister of Culture.
Do you see the future China-Indonesia cultural collaboration happening more on stages and the museum or on screens and social media platforms?
Yes, I believe so, because we share so many cultural expressions, and we have also now already 76 years of diplomatic relation. So I hope that in the near future we can accelerate or strengthen the cultural exchange, the cultural cooperation between our two countries, including the exchange of collection, museums, and maybe the film production, co-production, and with the digital platforms that is China is very advanced. We can also learn and also maybe cooperate in that matter to be more visible. So visibility is very important. For us, the Chinese culture is very visible, but maybe in China we need to be more present.
If Indonesian and Chinese cultures were to co-create a completely new art form, not fusion, but something entirely new.
Well, we can explore many things, with maybe with the innovation, with the digital platforms, the contemporary arts, for example, combined with the ancient rooted civilization that both we have. Like Indonesia, we have now the cave painting, the cave art that is the oldest in the world, 67,800 years. So I believe in China also it's a long-standing civilization, ongoing, living civilization since 5,000 years ago. So we believe we can form, but we need to exchange more in order to have a new form of art, media art. But I think from the contemporary approach and the traditional approach, we can find something new.
That was Fadli Zon, Indonesia's Minister of Culture. Chinese culture has drawn wide attention at the Tunis International Book Fair. The Chinese pavilion featured books in Chinese, Arabic, and French on society, politics, and culture, attracting steady crowds interested in language learning materials, children's stories, and academic works. The Confucius Institute at Carthage University brought the culture to life with performances and interactive activities, highlighting the richness and diversity of Chinese heritage. We're at 57 past, checking the forecast before we go. Beijing's cloudy overnight. It's down to 14 degrees, sunny and 24 for Thursday. Shanghai will be cloudy and down to 17, then a light rain and 28. Chongqing also getting a light rain and 19 overnight, then it's overcast and 24. Nanchang's overcast and 21, followed by heavy rainfall and 24 degrees. Lhasa will see showers and a low of 5 this evening, a light rainfall and 17 tomorrow. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's getting 19 overnight, sunny and 32 for Thursday. Vientiane will see a light rainfall becoming moderate tomorrow, a low of 26 and a high of 36. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, the Chinese and Iranian foreign ministers have met in Beijing as Middle East tensions remain high. And the WHO says human-to-human transmission of the hantavirus cannot be ruled out as it investigates cases on a cruise ship. On behalf of the staff, Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the yellow river in his eyes.
The yellow river is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy, and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters? And what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river? And what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio